Thank you, dear students. This is the second part of my lecture on Milton's Areopagitica. I gave you some introductory points in my first lecture, and in this lecture I shall precisely tell you the importance of Areopagitica from various angles. I shall mention to you, or rather I shall summarize the points that Milton pointed out, stated in front of the Parliament to establish his opinion that censorship of books must be declared invalid. Milton definitely had a number of constraints. As a political person, as a man connected with the government, as Cromwell's Secretary of Foreign Languages, Milton had certain constraints, and therefore he had to state his points in a tactful way. He could not contradict the verdict of the government strongly, impudently, because he himself was a part of the government. So, as I say, he used a tact. He started very politely praising the Parliament. He was addressing the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and he addressed the House very politely. And then gradually he started to give his points which established his view that books must be given the freedom, because books indicate the thoughts of the human beings, and human beings cannot be debarred from thinking freely. Now, 2 or 3 points that I mentioned to you earlier in my earlier class, I'll just repeat very briefly to refresh your memory. First, remember Milton's doctrine of divorce, which was published in 1643. This doctrine of divorce, doctrine and discourse, doctrine of divorce was written because Milton wanted to establish that a man whose first marriage did not work should be given a chance to marry a second time, and in that case he would need a divorce. And in 1643 itself, after a controversy that arose in connection with Milton's doctrine on divorce, the Parliament issued a law of the censorship of books, that each book should be submitted to a panel of experts who would consider and judge whether the book had the worth to be published or not. So the worth of a book would be judged by a panel of experts. Milton, 1644 in 1644, gave this speech, or rather Milton's Areopagitica was a defense of freedom of thought, free thinking men whose thoughts can be published only in books, in written form. So all these I told you, I just refresh your memory. And then I remember that I spoke of Isocrates. Isocrates of the, I told you that Isocrates of the 5th century, but I should mention that it is 5th century BC, not 5th century AD. And today I shall give you the precise years. Isocrates, 436 to 338 BC. So 436, that is 5th century BC. And this Isocrates I referred to you, and his speech that I referred to you. Now, how Milton starts, as I told you just now, that Milton begins rather politely. He praises the Parliament. He praises the Parliament for its defense of liberty in the past. In the past, the Parliament acted to preserve liberty, liberty of man, liberty and freedom of man. So, this Parliament, the same Parliament, cannot issue such a law which will curtail the freedom of man. The Parliament who acted, who rather was positively in favor of the freedom of man, cannot do anything, cannot issue any law which would be contrary to their previous stand. Milton starts his argument with this. Then he takes up the historical concept of the issue. Freedom of expression is something which has a long history. Any civilized country, or rather all the civilizations, were in favor of this freedom of thought, freedom of human mind. And he also refers to, in this connection, the tyrannical censorship of the Roman Catholic Church, meaning that the Roman Catholic Church was so dogmatic that it acted against the free thinking men. And he then goes on to his principal point that censorship of books will discourage intellectual activities. These are the 4 basic points that Milton makes in the beginning. And then gradually he moves on and he points out his arguments, or rather he marshals his arguments one by one. And I shall be giving you the points one by one. The 4 points that I have just given you are the preliminary points, and then I shall be coming to you and mention the principal points of the preliminary points which I have mentioned, and then we come to the principal points. What Milton says: freedom of books should be a fundamental right of man, because a book is the mirror of the human mind. The human mind is the greatest creation of God, because man is rational, because man can think, and this thinking faculty must not be curtailed in any way. Freedom was granted and guaranteed by the best and also by the lowest civilizations. And in this connection, Milton mentions the ancient Greece. In the ancient times, Greece was the example of highest civilization. Freedom of speech was there in Greece. But at the same time, a low civilization, comparatively low civilization, was the civilization of the Huns. The Huns and the Greeks cannot be compared intellectually, socially, or from any other point of view. They cannot be compared. But in these two societies, the greatest, that is Greece, and the lowest, that is the civilization of Huns, in both these civilizations, we can find freedom was granted and guaranteed by the authority. And then he comes to the possible evils that a book can do. And in this connection, he talks of evil. What is evil? Now, evil may be hidden in many books, and there is no doubt about that evil is embedded in many books, and there should be a vigilance against such books, because the dragon teeth of evil can destroy civilization. The dragon teeth of evil can be found in many books which can destroy civilization. And such books are of two kinds. One is blasphemous. What is blasphemy? Something against God. So blasphemous books, and the other kind is libelous. So two kinds of books can be of particular harm to the human society. Libelous, that is lustful, licentious, and of low morality, and blasphemous, that is something which goes against God, something speaking against God. So these two books, these two kinds of books must be rejected in any society, and there must be a vigilance against these kinds of books. But is it possible? Milton raises a very, very important question. Is it possible to pass a judgment so easily? And he refers to Epicure, the Epicurean philosophy. Now, Epicure, well, apparently the Epicurean philosophy may seem to be ungodly. Now, perhaps you may have some idea of the very well-known Epicurean philosophy. Well, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow is uncertain. But, well, apparently it may seem to be evil, but perhaps if we go deep into it, we can find that there is some truth. Because, well, we cannot mark anything as unmitigated evil. There is good in evil and evil in good. Now, well, it's very interesting that Milton could say all these things. Because, well, later on, well, a few years later, rather, well, 100 years later, there was another man about whom you have read, William Blake, who wrote his Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Now, well, there, he almost says the same thing, that evil is there and evil is also necessary. Milton doesn't say evil is necessary, but he suggests that nothing can be discarded like that as evil. So, he mentions a philosopher, Cicero, a great philosopher, and says that even Cicero considered the works of Epicure. So, how can we discard even a man like Epicure? Therefore, it is not very easy to say that a book is bad, the book is despicable, like that. And well, second point is that well, it is said that a bad book spreads infection, and if it spreads any infection, then it will harm the entire humankind. But, well, what are these evil books? And he says that, well, the heathen books, meaning unchristian books, must not be deemed, all unchristian books must not be deemed as evil books. And all books that may taint the life and doctrines of people cannot be suppressed without the fall of learning. Meaning, even in a so-called great book, there may be things evil. Now, well, if we come to our own country, India, well, if you read the Mahabharata, well, there are so many things which you can call evil. But, well, for that, shall we discard our great epic, the Mahabharata? Because there are so many good things there. So, good things, the preponderance of good things may be there in a book. Still then, there may be certain points of evil. So, how can we discard evil without discarding the whole world of learning, which is not possible? And how can the panel of experts, the so-called experts in the panel, know that a book is potentially corrupt unless and until the scholar himself reads the book? So, well, the manuscript of a book is given to me, and how can I pass my judgment that the book is bad? So, I have to read the book, and if I read the book, then I get corrupted. The same logic. If the book is printed, then people will read the book and they'll get corrupted. I am a judge, I am in the panel of experts, and I read the book, then I also get corrupted. So, in order to judge whether the book is evil or not, the book has got to be read, considered. What Milton suggests is that, well, the books must be allowed to be printed. Let the people read them and discard them if they feel them evil. Well, next point is very, very important, because he says that evil and sin, they are constructed. Banish all objects of lust, shut up all youth into the surest disciplines. Ye cannot make them chaste. How much we expel of sin, so much we expel of virtue. I read from the book. So, banish all objects of our lust and shut up the youth and give them only discipline, nothing else, still evil cannot be discarded completely, because evil may be there even in virtue. Well, the greatness of virtue, as I said of the Mahabharata, well, it is full of greatness, full of virtue, full of nobility. Still, there are parts which can be called evil. So, if we discard the evil of Mahabharata, then we shall have to discard the whole epic. Milton says almost the same thing. Now, well, if I have to discard a book because it is evil, then I shall have to discard the goodness, the virtue that is there in the book also. Now, then Milton at another point says, books are like meals. Books are like meals and drink. So, well, books are like meals and drink, meaning, well, without books, we cannot have the nourishment of our intellect. We cannot have the nourishment of our mind. So, and Milton says that well, if we take up the example of Plato, one of the greatest minds of Greece, if we take the example of Plato and especially his laws, Plato wrote a number of books. Well, perhaps you only know the name of one book, that is the Republic, but well, he has a number of books and laws, and Milton says that even in Plato's laws there are certain things which we may think that they should be discarded. So, well, it is not possible because Plato's laws cannot be discarded. It's so good, it is so important, it is so necessary, but then evil is there even in that book. And then Milton says that, well, if we take up songs, no song, no music, no song, no entertainment, well, can be there where there is no amount of evil. In every song, in every music, in every field of entertainment, there may be touches of evil. So, the creation of the earth is mixed. Well, I was talking of Blake, and you have read Blake's poem. Well, the tiger, haven't you? Did he who made the lamb make thee? So the same God made the predator tiger and the animal of prey, that is lamb. So in the same creation there is evil and there is good. Now it depends on the human mind. It depends on individual choice whether we shall take up the good or the evil. So God has created this universe in that fashion. So how can we say that a book is bad, and how can we discard a book on the point that it is bad, especially when books are like meals, when books are like food and drink, because we need our food and drink for our life, for our survival, and for our body, for the nourishment of the body. But we need the nuggets because a man is not simply a body. A man means also the mind. So how can the nourishment of the mind be there? And how can man teach with authority which is good or which is bad? Well, we cannot say with authority that this is good, because times change and good becomes evil and evil becomes good. Therefore, what Milton suggests is that, well, licensing a book, censoring a book is not a practical solution, because the book which a scholar in the panel thinks to be bad may be actually a book with great virtue. And therefore, if such a book is debarred from seeing the light of the day, it means that a great human thought is clouded, is shaded, and we are deprived of a great argument of a great man. Now, well, this is the summary of Areopagitica. Other things I told you the other day. And now I shall tell you a few things about Milton's arguments. How great Milton was as an orator, and how great is the quality of his pamphlet as a literary prose. Because, well, after all, we have to agree that, this pamphlet was a historical necessity, and something which is written for the demand of a time may not remain valid in subsequent times, but it remains as a work of creation. So, as a work of creation, how great Milton is, that I shall discuss briefly. Now, point number one is Milton's practical sense. He was a practical man. He knew that he could not argue with the parliamentarians, with the lords, with the members of the House of Lords, the House of Commons, arrogantly. So, Milton, in a very tactful way, discards the arrogance of scholarship. Definitely, Milton was by far the greatest scholar in the Parliament, but he discards his arrogance, and very tactfully he begins praising the Parliament, as I said. Then, second point is his straightforward method. He presents his case in a straightforward way. He doesn't dilly-dally, he doesn't meander, but he gives his points one by one in a very straightforward way. And when you read the book, when you read the pamphlet, definitely you have got that. You can see that there are very brief paragraphs. No paragraph is a long paragraph, very brief paragraphs with delicate meanings. And brief paragraphs, you can say that, a paragraph takes up a point, and a paragraph, definitely discusses a point. So, no big paragraph. And fourth point, his great scholarship, stupendous scholarship. He had a knowledge of history, politics, the Bible, and he makes references to great scholars, historical incidents of the past, and with them all, something else was there. That was Milton's practical wisdom. So, his great scholarship of history, of politics, of the Holy Bible, and all of them were filtered through his practical wisdom. His language definitely was somber, and that makes his prose elegant. Because after all, he was a scholarly man. He could not write in any other way. So, somber language, definitely very profound and somber, but full of elegance. And then Milton's logic. Milton's logic was immaculate. So, almost he follows almost a syllogistic pattern. See, premises and then conclusion. No book can be considered fully evil. Every book has in it touches of evil. How great a book it may be, it will have some touches of evil. And even a so-called evil book must have some touches of good. Who will consider that the book is evil? The scholar is an individual man, and the scholar will consider, does he know everything? First point. Secondly, well, if an evil book corrupts the humankind, then the scholar himself will be corrupted after reading the book. The scholar will say that, well, I shall read the book and I shall find it evil, and then I shall discard it from my mind too. The same thing can be done by rational men. Therefore, perhaps licensing a book or censoring a book should not be a very good thing. So this logic, beautiful logic. Now, no, not emotional, no emotion is there, but very logically he establishes his point. Thank you. Well, I have told you, I have told you earlier also, and I assure you that study materials for everything that I am teaching will be given in due time. So don't worry. Thank you very much.